Chapter 1. The Emperor's Golden Prison. The year is 1420. The Ming Dynasty stands at its peak. Emperor Yongle, the mighty builder of the Forbidden City, has just completed his masterpiece. A city so sacred, ordinary men and women could not even gaze upon its walls. From the outside, it was perfection, symmetrical, divine, untouchable. But inside, the emperor was a prisoner of gold and ritual. He was the center of the universe, yet surrounded by layers of eunuchs, ministers, and women, thousands of them, all sworn to serve him, love him, and obey him. These women were not mere wives. They were the emperor's concubines, chosen from across the vast empire in what became one of history's most secretive and ruthless beauty selections.
Chapter 2. The Selection of Women. Every few years, the palace would hold a draft of beauties, known as the Shunnu selection. Girls as young as 13 were taken from villages and noble homes alike, their skin examined, their teeth checked, their lineage traced. A single blemish, a scar, or a rumor of bad luck could end their chance at destiny. For some, it was an honor. For others, it was exile. For once a girl entered the Forbidden City, she would never again see her family. Only a handful would rise. The Guiden, the esteemed ladies, serving in close chambers. The Fae, the consorts, adorned in gold. And above them all, the Empress, the mother of the nation, the only woman who could wear the phoenix crown. But rank meant little without favor, for in the harem, beauty was currency, and jealousy was law.
Chapter 3. The Silent Army of Eunuchs. If the harem was the emperor's garden, its gardeners were the eunuchs, men stripped of manhood to serve without temptation. They guarded doors, carried messages, and managed every whisper of palace life. Some became confidants of emperors. Others became puppeteers of power. In time, the eunuchs would form one of the most feared forces in the empire, especially under the later Ming rulers, when their influence began to eclipse even that of ministers. Through them, lovers were summoned, rivals silenced, and the emperor's will, or whims, enforced. But behind the courtly etiquette and divine ceremony, the harem was also a battlefield.
Chapter 4. The Emperor Who Loved Too Many. Then came Emperor Yongzheng, the strict reformer, and father of Emperor Qianlong, perhaps the most dazzling of all Qing rulers. Under Qianlong, the Forbidden City reached the height of its beauty and its intrigue. He was a poet, warrior, and collector, and also a man of deep passions. The archives record that he had consorts of every rank, many of them promoted or demoted according to his moods. But one name still echoes through the ages: Consort Ling, who bore him several sons and rose to become the Empress Xiao Yi Chun. It was her son who would inherit the throne, and her influence would stretch far beyond her own lifetime. The Qianlong Emperor was known for indulgence wrapped in restraint. He could spend the morning commanding armies and the evening composing love poems for his concubines. In one verse, he wrote, "Among blossoms only she remains, fragrance in the heart, though the season fades." Yet his palace was also a web of ambition. When a favored concubine rose, another would fall, sometimes through quiet exile, sometimes through death. Even the emperor's affection was a weapon that others wielded.
Chapter 5. Love and Loneliness. Life in the harem was paradoxical. It offered luxury beyond imagination: silks, jade, pavilions, gardens. Yet the women were forbidden the simplest human freedom: choice. Many entered the palace never to see their families again. They grew old behind walls gilded with dragons, their beauty fading in the dim light of ceremonial candles. A few, however, turned despair into strategy. They studied the emperor's habits, learned his poetry, mirrored his moods. They discovered that affection could be earned not by beauty alone, but by intellect and obedience. In a world ruled by silence, listening became power.
Chapter 6. The Iron Lotus, Empress Dowager Xian. In the later Qing, as emperors weakened, it was the women, the empresses dowager, who rose. One of the most respected was Xian, wife of Emperor Xianfeng. She was calm, cautious, and loyal to tradition. But her co-ruler in the shadows was of a different breed, a woman who would become one of the most formidable figures in Chinese history, Empress Dowager Cixi.
Chapter 7. The Rise of Cixi, the Dragon Empress. She entered the Forbidden City in 1852 as a teenage concubine, known only as Lan, the Orchid. She was intelligent, ambitious, and unafraid. Within a year, she captured the emperor's attention, not merely with beauty, but with wit. She bore him a son, the only male heir. That child made her powerful. When Emperor Xifang died amid the chaos of foreign invasions and internal rebellion, the boy became emperor, and Cixi became Empress Dowager. From behind a silk screen, she began to rule. For nearly half a century, she controlled the empire through cunning, alliances, and ruthlessness. Ministers trembled at her words. Generals bowed to her will. Even as the empire crumbled, she remade the palace into a fortress of her own authority. Under her, the harem ceased to be merely a place of pleasure. It became a throne of survival. She broke the age-old rule that women must remain unseen. She held audiences with foreign envoys, issued decrees, and chose emperors. The world outside saw only her shadow, the Dragon Empress, half legend, half villain. But within the palace, she was the law.
Chapter 8. Intrigue and Isolation. By the late 19th century, the Qing court had become a theater of ghosts. Western powers pressed at the gates. Revolutions stirred in the provinces. Yet inside the Forbidden City, rituals continued as if time itself had stopped. Each dawn, the eunuchs lit incense in the Hall of Tranquil Longevity. Concubines dressed in embroidered robes, their faces powdered white, their eyes downcast. They rehearsed the same courtesies their ancestors had performed centuries before. But the empire they served was dying. Cixi's final years were marked by suspicion and purges. She poisoned rivals, including the young emperor Guangxu, whose reformist ideas threatened her rule. Even as the modern world roared beyond the palace walls, she clung to the traditions that had once sustained her power. When she died in 1908, the last light of the old harem dimmed with her.
Chapter 9. The Fall of the Last Harem. In 1911, revolution erupted. The Qing dynasty fell, and with it, 2,000 years of imperial rule. The young boy emperor, Puyi, barely 6 years old, was forced to abdicate. Yet he was allowed to live inside the Forbidden City, a ghost emperor in a hollow palace. There were still concubines then, elderly, forgotten women who wandered the empty courtyards like phantoms of another age. They still addressed each other by rank, still performed the old rituals, though no emperor would ever call for them again. When Puyi was finally expelled in 1924,
The gates closed forever on the world of the harem. Silence reclaimed the courtyards where whispers of love and betrayal had once echoed.
Chapter 10. Legacy of the Forbidden. Today, tourists walk those same stone paths. They gaze at the crimson walls, the golden roofs, the carved dragons, but few understand what those walls once contained. For 5 centuries, the Imperial Harem was the hidden engine of Chinese monarchy. It shaped politics, lineage, and even history itself, one whispered secret at a time. The women who lived there were not merely ornaments. They were survivors, strategists, sometimes tyrants, sometimes martyrs. Their stories were erased from official chronicles, but they remain written in the architecture, in the secluded courtyards, the narrow doorways that led nowhere, the painted screens that hid 1,000 eyes.
Chapter 11. The Empress and the Concubines. Each night, the emperor's attendants would present him with a roster of women. Their names were written on ivory tablets, placed on a lacquered tray. The emperor would flip one, a simple gesture that could change a woman's destiny forever. Those chosen would be bathed, perfumed, and dressed in new robes. 2 eunuchs would carry her to the emperor's bedchamber, literally carry her, wrapped in a silk quilt so that her feet never touched the ground. If the emperor was pleased, her rank might rise. If not, she would fade into the vast dormitories of forgotten concubines, hundreds of them, living out their years in silence. It was a world of beauty without freedom, luxury without love. And yet, within this gilded cage, some women learned to rule.
Chapter 12. Power Behind the Curtain. In the early Ming court, the empress was a figure of virtue, chosen for wisdom as much as for beauty. But as generations passed, the balance of power began to tilt. One woman, Empress Dowager Zhang, mother of Emperor Hongji, became a legend for her political cunning. While her son was known for his rare fidelity, the only Ming emperor said to have loved only one woman, it was his mother who truly controlled the palace. Then came others, like Consort Wan, who seduced the young Emperor Chenghua and ruled his heart and his empire for decades. She was 20 years older than him, but her hold was absolute. To maintain her influence, she ordered newborn concubines' babies to be killed, eliminating any rival who might bear a new heir. The Forbidden City, with its crimson walls, concealed rivers of fear.
Chapter 13. The House of Blood and Silence. In the Ming Dynasty, pleasure and politics were inseparable. An emperor's affection could decide wars, ministries, and dynasties. One of the darkest tales belongs to Emperor Zhengde, a ruler more interested in entertainment than empire. He filled his harem with women of all classes, even captured Mongol princesses and commoners, and built a private city of debauchery within the palace walls. He called himself the Lord of 10,000 years, but his reign became a carnival of excess. Zhengde's nights were filled with wine, theater, and the laughter of hundreds of women, while eunuchs whispered deceit in his ear. By the time he died, thrown from his pleasure boat in a drunken accident, the dynasty had begun to rot from within.
Chapter 14. The Cost of Desire. By the late Ming era, the Imperial Harem had swollen to thousands. Some emperors were too weak to rule, and the real power shifted to women and eunuchs who mastered the art of manipulation. Whispers of poisonings, hidden pregnancies, and secret assassinations filled the corridors. Historians later uncovered evidence of rival concubines turning to alchemy and black magic, hoping to win the emperor's passion or curse their enemies. The palace's beautiful silence became haunted by paranoia. Even the mighty Emperor Wan Li, who reigned for nearly half a century, withdrew into his private chambers, refusing to attend court for years. His obsession with one concubine, Lady Zhang, plunged the empire into administrative chaos as she schemed to have her son named heir. Her success nearly tore the dynasty apart.
Chapter 15: A World Without Men. The irony of the Forbidden City was cruel. It was filled with women, yet ruled by none, staffed by men, yet all of them castrated. This genderless hierarchy turned intimacy into politics and affection into warfare. Women who once dreamed of silken glory ended their days as ghosts, veiled in sorrow, their names erased by time. But the harem was not merely a prison, it was also a stage upon which power could be rewritten.
Chapter 16: The Rise of the Dragon Mothers. In the final century of the Ming Dynasty, as emperors grew decadent and detached, the real power shifted to the Empress Dowagers, the mothers of emperors. They held court behind screens, issued edicts in their sons' names, and used the harem as their private chessboard. Through marriage alliances, rivalries, and calculated mercy, they controlled not only the women of the palace, but the entire bureaucratic structure that served them. It was said that when an Empress Dowager spoke, the dragon throne itself trembled. But their rule could not save the dynasty forever.